one of the things we have to always remember is that our mind is not always our friend. Our thoughts are not always our friend, right? You came in feeling guilty around desensitization and feeling really numbed and removed from what your patients are coming in with. And within a matter of a few minutes, you were able to shift your perspective and realize it's actually a superpower of being a great doctor. You're able
Hmm.
to shut that off because we can't be empathetic all the time. Sometimes we need to get into action, and our empathy will actually harm us and not help us. So empathy is incredible. Everybody should always be working to develop their empathy and their connection with their patients. But there's a time and a place for everything. And when you're speaking with other doctors, that is the time for you to be a doctor, right? Your empathy's for your patient. But when you're in doctor mode, you got to get things done. You got to give instructions, right? And sometimes those seconds matter.
Yeah.
So your ability to turn off your empathy and numb yourself from what's actually happening allows you to be the doctor you need to be to provide what is needed in that moment.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It feels much better. I mean, I came into this session feeling guilty about the desensitization and wondering if this is what I should be doing. But now I feel a lot more relieved in that I recognize that truly this has become my superpower. People often ask me, how are you as a psychiatrist able to come home and not carry things with you?
Mm.
And I think that this is how I'm able to, is this ability to turn it off and the ability to show compassion and empathy to my patients in real time, but to then recognize what needs to be done to solve the quote puzzle, shall I say, and moving forward, working on solving that puzzle, working on the next, the step-by-step process of how to provide them with treatment, how to heal them, how to move forward, if there's a suicide attempt, um if they're in delirium, whatever it might be, how to move forward with their treatment options. And I wonder, though, if I am digesting all that's happening around me. Something I also wanted to bring up today to you, um, Mary, is that I I'm wondering if I am fatigued. Like I sort of made a shift in my career. So at first, I was very interested, I remember in residency in therapy. I would spend a lot of time with my patients. I was very interested in outpatient clinic, where I would see patients in the actual clinic. And then as I got sick with long COVID and also as I got older, I started to feel a little bit more easily fatigued. And I started to find myself more interested in inpatient work and sort of that fast pace. See you now as a consultant, and I went into training to come back to training to become a consultant psychiatrist in psychosomatic medicine for a reason, because I found myself really interested in just seeing a patient in a snapshot of time. And I'm wondering, again, I think I might have a judgment about that choice. And I'm wondering, was this out of fatigability? Was this the right choice? As I'm transforming as a psychiatrist and as a doctor, is this the right move? Um, and I guess I just wanted to explore that with you today.
Yeah. Yeah. What's important about that in this moment?
Okay. What's important about that? Two things, twofold. One, providing the care that patients need,
Mhm.
which oftentimes they don't get therapy, they just get medication management. And that tends to be a judgment that I have, that a good psychiatrist provides both therapy and medication management.
Mm.
And then two, also my own passion. and sense of fulfillment. I used to become so fulfilled working through therapy and doing therapy with a patient. It used to be so fulfilling. Now it feels tiring. You know? So I wonder kind of where that shift happened and why it happened and if it's the right choice.
Okay. I'm curious, why did you laugh?
Um, why did I laugh? Maybe there was a lot of emotion and I needed to sort of decompress or something.
Mm.
I wonder if there's sadness there. I think I am having a hard time feeling fulfilled.
Okay.
I think I miss being wide-eyed and interested in doing it all.
Mm.
I miss um I miss having a lot of energy. I miss being young. Um I miss not having long COVID,
Mm.
you know. Um but I'm also on the flip side, I'm also excited about consult liaison work. I've always really liked it, even as a resident. I've always enjoyed it.
Mhm.
I like serving as a liaison. It does make me feel excited. Um, and I'm excited to learn more. I'm excited to be challenged. I think maybe the current uh, hospital system that I'm with, though it's very well renowned and well known, their patient consensus is a little bit low, So I think I'm a little bit underwhelmed,
Mm.
you know, where
Yeah.
I kind of want more of a challenge.
Yeah. So I'm hearing in terms of fulfillment and your need to feel fulfillment, I'm hearing that some of the things that drive you revolve around providing care,
Yeah.
poetry, being part of someone's journey, perhaps in their treatment. And I'm also hearing that challenge
Yeah.
you actually enjoy. And maybe that's one of the things of what you're doing right now. It's you're always getting someone new.
Right.
It's a challenge.
Right.
So when you think about fulfillment, what would feel fulfilling to you?
That is a big question. And I was just thinking about that yesterday of I think a fulfillment would be feeling like I have reached my goals, and I don't know what that means
Mhm.
yet.
Fair.
That I am utilizing, if not all, but most of my skill sets,
Mhm.
you know, um, being in a financially positive situation or a financially um being in a better financial situation, I guess.
Mhm.
Um, and being a leader, sort of being able to have influence. I think that's my understanding or my definition of leadership is being able to influence. And so, does it look like having my own private practice and pulling in all of my various skill sets? I mean, I'm an osteopath, so I can use my hands. I have a nutrition background. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. I have a nutrition background. I'm learning integrative psychiatry to learn more about how to manage supplements for patients to manage mental illness through management of supplements.
Mhm.
Um, I not only learned about adult psychiatry, but I also went into child psychiatry, and now I'm doing consult liaison psychiatry. Um, I did my training at the HMS system with Harvard. I, find myself have an interest and background in life coaching where I did training in life coaching. Not that I'm a life coach, but, I've learned some interesting coaching modalities. And I feel like all of that there's a judgment there, I guess. And that judgment is, why am I not utilizing all of my skills? And why am I like still in training? And yeah, there's that anger there. There's a little bit of anger and frustration, shall I say, frustration with like, why am I not using all of my skills yet? Um, do I need to continue on with all of this training? Do I need to do more fellowship training? Um, do I need to complete my child fellowship training? And I know we talked about that at one point, and I do miss working with kids, so more than likely I will, but could I find myself feeling fulfilled by, figuring out what I actually want to do when I grow up, right? And I guess I see like friends and colleagues start their own private practice, and I look at that and I think to myself, gosh, wow, that must be so amazing slash hard. And do I have it in me to do it slash am I willing to take that risk to put it all on the line? And
Mm,
I want to. I think I do. I think I would like to. I just don't know all of the tools of how to start my own private practice. So I've been reaching out. I've been reaching out to certain colleagues, and I also don't know if I want to move forward with, instead of starting my own private practice, just asking the doctor, the colleague and friend that I'm working with who actually employed me on private practice to just kind of go for it and ask her, are you willing, would you ever consider a partnership? And that would be a big question to ask her, you
mm,
know?
mm,
But wondering, would I be better suited as a partner versus somebody who kind of just forges my new path? And I feel like maybe it can be both, it can be starting off as working for someone, maybe working alongside someone and by someone,
mm.
and then kind of doing your own thing one day.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of pain and excitement, both, of what do I do when I grow up, you
Yeah.
know, or shall I say, like, how can I utilize my skill set?
Mhm.
How can I, what is it that I want to do? Do I want to always work for an academic institution in the hospital setting, or do I want to do both that and private practice? What makes me come alive? You know, what is it that really excites me? Um, And it's interesting, Miriam, you know, there's some pain that's coming right now that I'm feeling, like a little bit of sadness, honestly. When I got sick with long COVID from getting COVID from the hospitals, right? I lost some ability to vision and creativity. Like, I sort of thought I was gonna die. Like, it was bad at one point. And I was on disability, like it was really bad. And I had to resign from one hospital system that I was very, very excited to have to have been at. Um, and I lost some of my capacity to um, be have dreams. And I miss that. I miss the ability to dream. I think that's a big one. I think that's a really, really big one. Um, yeah. And that's what I hope to work on with us with our time together, you know,
Yeah.
getting back into that. I know that was a lot to share all at once.
And you know what? I want to acknowledge you for sharing because sometimes it's really hard to kind of, it's like uncovering certain wounds, right? That we've kind of been suppressing and just to be able to kind of voice them, not only to ourselves, but to someone else, that takes courage,
Oh,
right? Because it kind of sheds a light on some of the parts of us that we've been holding guilt, fear, shame for.
yeah,
Right? And
yeah,
also to remember, you didn't choose COVID. You didn't choose to have long COVID, right? And that's something that affected you and your health and literally every aspect of your life, right? It took from you. things that you never wanted taken. You didn't
Yeah.
ask, right? But you were presented with an impossible situation. And having gone through long COVID, and you are getting better, right? You're
Yes. Yes.
back into the swing of things, maybe not 100%. And maybe there are some judgments around like, why aren't I at 100%? Or others are
Yes.
further ahead, you know, I'm behind,
Yes.
I'm behind on life, on, but it's like
I
one thing
feel,
you feel that. Yeah.
yeah, I do. I feel that way. I feel like I'm 35 and I'm still finishing fellowship. You know,
Yeah,
you know.
it's true. It's true. And maybe it has set you back, but it's also given you lessons.
Oh yeah. Like that's another thing I forgot to mention in terms of where to position my private practice is that I understand long COVID on a personal level.
Right.
I understand it, and not every provider does or even believes in it,
Mm,
or even believes that it exists.
right.
I went to a recent conference. I don't know if I told you this, but I stood up at the it was a lecture on long COVID, and it was a national conference, and so there was maybe like 50 to 100 people in the room, and at the very end, I commented and I said, I'm actually on all of these medications, and, which there's pain. I'm laughing because there's pain in that, there's pain. Like I have to be on these meds, and it's really sad. And I hate having to take so many medications every day. Um, but, you know, um, and I mentioned to them, thank you. I thank them for their work. And I told them I'm a physician that was highly functional and then fell ill. And now I'm getting better. It took me 3 years to get better, but I am, thanks to these meds and functional medicine and integrative medicine. Um and I had people come up to me at the end of the lecture. People came up to me and were like, you should write your book, you should write a memoir, you should really share your story. Um, you know, to talk about your experience with long COVID because you really helped me believe in it and its existence, because when we see one of our own give a testimony, it means more. Sometimes we might not fully understand what a patient is going through, but when we see one of our own saying they were highly functional and then they weren't, it's awakening. It makes you stop and think.
Mm,
So I would like to one day be able to give legitimacy to those with long COVID and to help doctors better understand what that's like,
mm,
to help find a cure, or to move forward with at least helping doctors and providers believe in the patients and their stories so that they can provide them with the care that they need. Oftentimes patients with long COVID, they'll kind of get dismissed.
mm.
Yeah.
So you would say that experience has actually deepened your level of empathy, care, and compassion for patients.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I would say so. And for and that actually that experience led me to want to move forward with psychosomatic medicine training,
mhm,
a consultant psychiatrist, to work on the mind body connection. I
mm,
always found an interest in that, but this sort of led me to think, gosh, I had an experience and I would love to be able to study this a little bit more and understand the mental health implications of all of a sudden becoming debilitated, just getting a viral infection. And a few weeks later, all of a sudden, you're disabled. How does that feel? Right? It's like your whole world just changes. And what are the mental health implications of that? And not just from a social perspective, but from a biological perspective. There are studies that show that the COVID virus itself affects neurons in the brain to where it can decrease serotonin levels, which increases anxiety and depression. And it's been linked to new onset psychosis. So people all of a sudden start to hallucinate or develop delusions. And I've seen it in my clinical experience in my practice, where it can actually develop new onset suicidal thoughts out of the blue. Like they don't have to have depression or whatnot. It's just out of the blue, they start to feel really, really suicidal. It's insane. It's really scary. Um, it's really scary. So there were times when um I would of course, I would see that they had had a recent COVID infection and then they all of a sudden developed bipolar disorder or became manic or had depression but then it worsened, or they didn't have anything at all and then they just came in with something new. So I would treat them with the psych meds. And then I would also notice that they were having some lingering physical symptoms like shortness of breath and fatigue and all of this. And so I would give them a super low dose of a steroid and it would help their mental health symptoms too. And so then I started noticing, wow, that's really interesting. Um, because sometimes steroids can actually make your mental health worse. It can make people psychotic, more aggressive, manic. And I was like, this is actually making them better. Interesting. So is the cause the COVID virus on a biological level? Anyways, I'm being a little bit of a nerd right now, but like um I know that you're following. I just have a lot of thoughts and had a lot of thoughts. I put in a lot of energy into COVID and long COVID. And I have so many notes on my phone, so many studies, so many things. And I'm like, do I publish? Do I work on this? Do I make this my thing? What's my niche, right? Again, going back to that same question. What's my niche going to be? Is this my story? And I've got a lot of stories, you know, I've got a lot of stories. I've also been thinking about, do I write the narcissistic playbook? Because I've had 3 strikes right now of 3 individuals in my life that are narcissistic, personal, professional, and personal. But one was romantic and one was platonic. And, do I make that part of my story? Um, and it's all vulnerability. Like, I think the reason why I have not been sharing or expressing a lot of this is because it feels really vulnerable to be like, this is what I went through.
Mhm.
And it's almost like you want to just like shove it under the rug to be like, oh, I'm over that. I'm over that. I'm fine. I'm normal. I didn't go through narcissistic abuse. I'm not a victim. I didn't go through long COVID and right? Like there's a lot of that kind of that vulnerability with sharing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've talked to you in several sessions now, and you know, it's not that you have a book, it's that you have a series.
Mm,
You have multiple stories. And maybe the common thread among them all is vulnerability, right?
mm. Or resilience, I was thinking.
Mm.
And how do you get to resilience? How people will ask this question. I remember doing a talk on post-traumatic growth once, and maybe it takes just looking inward and
Mhm.
being vulnerable
Mhm.
and working through. And yeah, it's a series.
Yeah. And we don't need to put pressure on ourselves to decide if we don't have the information and if we've not explored everything that we need to explore, right? Like sometimes we put pressure on ourselves, like we've got too much floating around in our heads and we don't know which way to go, and we start to get confused, and then we start to get down on ourselves because we don't have clarity. But
Mm.
step one in achieving anything in your life and making any decision starts with clarity.
Yeah.
Right? You'd mentioned that COVID took away vision. But in speaking with you, these last few sessions, you've got many visions, you've got many ideas,
Mm,
tons of experiences.
mm,
You've acquired skills that most people don't have. Like people have skills, but you've got skills across a variety of areas, from like nutrition to coaching, like you've acquired so many different types of skills. And the one word that I keep thinking about is integrative.
mm. I
Right.
love that. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I see is like you're on this mission to make people better, and you're open to different modalities, different ways of getting better. It's not all about pushing pills, right? Like I've heard you talk about medication, therapy. I've heard you talk about, like just integrative things that could help someone through, if it's breathing or if it's, something that's um, not completely medical, like, or if it's nutrition. It's like, what are all the things that affect someone's well-being, right?
Yes.
Physically, mentally, emotionally. Like you're looking at COVID and how that's affecting people on an emotional level, on a physical level.
Mm,
So for me, like what I think about is like functional medicine. Functional medicine doctors are not just looking to diagnose symptoms, they're looking to eradicate the underlying issues. And I guess my observation is that you're someone who's very curious.
I
Like
am.
that's why you enjoy the challenge, because a challenge allows us to turn on our curiosity,
Yes.
to bring in all the skills that we've got under our, in our arsenal, and start deploying the skills that are needed. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess one thing that I noticed is that in a few of our discussions, you sort of touch on like what long COVID took from you. But I'd love for you to shift your thinking around like, what did COVID give you?
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good point. Yes, that's a really good point.
You're very unique in that you are a doctor who's experienced COVID and knows firsthand what it's done to you, which
Mhm.
allows you to have this superpower and start noticing things that would go unnoticed by doctors who haven't had COVID and wouldn't think to go looking in places, right? You,
Right.
you look in places where others don't.
Yes.
And that's why you're creating connections.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
going back to like your initial thing, which is like, okay, I've got all these ideas of what I want to do, but I don't know which way I should go. Then we go back to clarity around, okay, this is a super loaded question, but it's like, Miriam, what do you want?
Mm. I want to feel like I'm making a difference in people's lives.
Okay.
I want to come up with something new. I don't want to just be a status quo doctor that just does things the way that everyone else does them. I'm sick and tired of the psychiatric healthcare system. It's some of the things about it I feel like is just limited and it bothers me. And
Mhm.
so I'm I wish that I could own a hospital and, have an inpatient unit where it's beautiful and there's music playing. And, I know that sounds very airy fairy, but just like something that's actually going to help patients get better. Um, but, going back, more groundedness in terms of what I can do, maybe it's in a private practice setting. Um, Maybe it's actually, what if I could be a consultant that works in the hospital systems that kind of, you know, tells them like the way that I practice medicine is going to be a little different. I am an integrative psychiatrist, and the patients that I see, I will also make supplemental recommendations. I will prescribe labs. Will
Mhm.
you hire me as a contractor.
Yeah.
You know, maybe that's what I have to do is negotiate. That sounds really fun, actually.
Okay.
It sounds really fun. Um, and then I could take on some of those patients in a private practice setting. From a
Mm.
private practice setting, I sort of see a community. I don't see myself operating alone. I see myself operating in a community of like-minded individuals and an integrative approach where there's like maybe it looks like there's a family medicine doctor there too that's functional, maybe an OB, you know, slash gynecologist, maybe, you know, maybe it's a sense of community, but like, I'm the psychiatrist or I have a team, and I work with psychologists and social workers, and it's not just I have to do it all, right? Um, because in order for somebody to get better, it takes a village, it really does. Um, so maybe it's that. I mean, maybe it's joining a functional medicine team, um, but having my own private practice where they contract me and my services, right? Um, and then also when I work in the hospital setting, I tell them this is how I do things, and I'd like to be an independent contractor, you know, because I feel really bogged down with the system when it tells me what to do. Like, you have to see a patient within this amount of minutes, you know, like, and I'm laughing because I'm so angry. Like, I'm so frustrated with that. Like, it's like, what, why? Why can't I give them more time? I have it, why do I have to see them within this amount of time? Um, or why can't I run labs? I'm a doctor just like that other doctor. Why can't I order labs that I think are important? Why does it have to be the primary care physician that orders all the labs? Why do I have to just make a recommendation? Why can't I just be like, no, this is actually important because this is my training and I'm going to actually, run these particular labs? Um, and why can't I just put in the orders myself? There are certain systems where it's like certain hospital systems where you can, as a consultant, put in certain medications. And then there are other systems where it's like taboo and like it has to like be run by like the primary care team. And sometimes it depends on the primary care team. Sometimes they are amazing and they're so like open and like, yeah, like, we'll order whatever it is that you want. And then sometimes you've got people that are like, no, like I make this decision and I don't think it's necessary. And you're like, oh, why'd you consult me? you know, like, um, so I think I'm just traumatized from certain places, not the current place. The current place I'm at is really open-minded, but like, I think I'm traumatized from other places in the past. Um, so I go back to this concept of being an independent contractor might not be a bad idea, you know? And I just, what's another thing I'd love to do, Mariam? So one of my dreams in the past was to empower other doctors to also live fulfilling lives. And the reason being is that I saw a statistic that I never forgot. In 2012, I saw that there are an average 400 physician suicides a year in the US. That was in 2012. That was over 10 years ago. And that was underreported. That was only the ones that were documented. And follow certain social media accounts. Every couple of weeks, I see a resident or fellow or early career doctor commit suicide, leaving behind a family, leaving behind a wife, husband, young kids. They are getting, and I was asking myself, what's happening? And I was like, maybe they're getting burned out. And it just takes one bad apple to make you feel hopeless, helpless, and worthless. And those are the three main culprits that lead to suicidal thoughts in the psychiatric world. So we think, um, helplessness, hopelessness, and worthlessness. Um, and I recall when I had a program director that was terrible. Oh my God, she was terrible. um, she didn't believe that I was sick with long COVID. And she spread a rumor that I was malingering, that I was faking it.
Mm.
And um, she essentially forced me to resign because it was either that or um, having to deal with a toxic environment all over again. And I chose myself. I chose, you know what, I moved on and I figured I would forge a new path. But there were at times when I felt really hopeless because I felt like my job, my career, my livelihood was at risk. I was afraid of being fired. I was like, she was a bully, and every little thing was added up, and it was just like I could do no right. So there was this hopelessness and this helplessness. And then the bullying happened for so long that I started to feel worthless, And then as soon as I noticed all of this happening, I took a step back and I saw myself as a case and I said, uh-oh, we got to take a break here. You never allow a single person to make you feel this way, you know? Like these are the three things that can lead one to suicidality. Also, I'm at high risk for those thoughts because I have COVID and long COVID. And I'm already easily fatigued and all of that. And so I took a step back. And what really helped was going back to my family, living with them, which I know not everybody can do, taking a remote job so that I could heal, making some money, so going out of training and making some money, um, so that I could, pay off loans, have some breathing ability. And then I ended up dating again and found a husband, now husband. And it was like I did life. I wasn't just stuck in medicine, you know? And it pains me so much, Miriam, to see people dying in medicine that are so smart and so capable to think that their end, like to just see no light at the end of the tunnel.
Mm.
So I founded this S corporation called Empath Medicine. It stands for Engaging in Meaningful Physician Patient Alliances Through Humanism in Medicine. And one of the goals I had before I got sick was that empath medicine would teach EI, emotional intelligence, to doctors at the med student level so that they know how to navigate the emotional, social experiences of their rotations better so that they can better emotionally regulate and manage their own emotions so that they can recognize in real time better, like in a better capacity, what's happening so that there can be less burnout and less suicidality and develop a sense of community where empath med is like a national thing. They go through a certain training, they get a certification. It's accredited, or one day, it will be accredited by the ACGME, which is the American College of Graduate Medical Education. They can put it on their resume and say they've been accredited by empath med, EI cert program, whatever it might be. These are all just thoughts here, but I had these plans and I was like, it would be like helpful for medical education. Um, and so that was, you know, one of the series, I guess, one of the stories. And so as I'm thinking for myself, what I want to do and how I want to vision and what I want my future to look like from a professional standpoint, um, I'm looking at how can I have some power. I
Mhm.
think that's really it. It's power. How can I maintain a level of influence with patients and the system, but also maintain a sense of power and agency and autonomy, but also operate within a system?
Yes. Yes.
So once I figure that out, I'd love to share that with my colleagues.
Yeah,
I think it might be being an independent contractor,
it could be.
you know, giving doctors the ability to sort of you know, convene amongst one another, create consulting groups. That's what I like, I guess, about consulting work is that you can always like, you don't have to just be at one hospital. It's just like you get a consult that day, you take care of that patient, you see them, you do an evaluation, you give your recommendations, you communicate with the primary team. It's fun. I like it. It's challenging because it's something new. There's that novelty. It's like the ED, you know? Like you just and sometimes we get these consults in the ED, often actually. A lot of psych patients come through the ER, come through the emergency department.
Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Um, that gave me a lot of umph right now talking about helping my colleagues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I saw your I saw your energy shift. I saw you, remembering what lit you up before
They
COVID.
used to lit me up. They used to light me up. They used to light me up. And you know what also used to light me up, Mary? Um, was advocacy against human trafficking.
Yeah.
I came across trafficking survivors when I was a resident in Chicago. And boy, oh boy, did that open up my eyes to this dark web of evil. And I started to speak about it. And I started to teach my colleagues, and I wanted to even further this about the signs and symptoms of trafficking survivors and what to look out for, because apparently there's a statistic that says up to 80%, I can't believe it, up to 80% of young kiddos or women that are in the life that are being actively trafficked are treated by a medical provider but not appropriately identified as being someone that's trafficked, because sometimes they can't even vocalize that and verbalize that because they're being manipulated by their pimps, shall we say. So anyways, that was something that used to light me up. I mean, I spoke at the International Academy for Law and Mental Health, spoke in front of judges and other psychiatrists and like chairmen of departments, and loved it. Did grand rounds, loved it.
Mm.
Because I felt like I was like, this is one of the most heinous crimes, I think. And it's so lucrative. It
Yeah.
makes it makes more than so many other industries. I mean, it roughly grosses like $34 billion a year. That's revenue. It's crazy. And a lot of these like high, you know, um, some politicians, some other people that are kind of high up in the political world are somewhat involved to some degree, which is really nasty. Um, but anyways, I guess I'm trying to share all the things that used to light me up. And I'm really happy that it's starting to turn on. And I think what I need to do is have more compassion towards myself too, to be like, it's gonna take time. Like I need to trust the world again, and to trust develop a sense of safety. Like I am safe. Okay. I am safe. All right. We're here. We're not dead. You know, like, and there's laughter. I'm noticing there's a lot of emotion there. It was scary. I wrote my end of life care. This time last year, I had written my end of life care and sent it to some of my best friends and was like, listen, I'm not doing so well. And if anything were to happen, this is what I want to happen. It was that bad. Um, and thankfully, I made a huge turnaround with a medication, a couple meds. But I think I need to develop that sense of safety again, and it's going to take time. I had plans also to work for the UN, but now with everything happening in current events, I'm like, what's the use? No one's going to listen to me anyways. Like, which is so painful. It's so painful to see that. Um, anyways, what are your thoughts about all of that? Sorry, I just kind of went on a rant.
That's good. No, it's good to verbalize. It's good to verbalize all the things that, you're trying to make sense of everything. You're trying to make sense of everything pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, and now what, right? You're at the point of your life where you're like, okay, now what do I do? Because I do have all these ideas and I don't know which way to go. So when we have all these ideas and they're amazing, right? Like acknowledge yourself, like, wow, I have big plans. I'm dreaming big. I want to, what is it that I want to do? Well, what I see with everything that you've presented is you want to make a difference. And that's
Yeah.
in different ways, whether it's making a difference with the patients, with the doctors, human trafficking. At the end of the day, your underlying motivation is making a difference. So it
Yes.
doesn't matter how it shows up, how it doesn't matter how you make a difference, or does it matter that you're making a difference? And that's fulfilling you. Feels good. It drives you, it motivates you, it helps you grow. It helps you make a bigger impact. So those are some of the things that were coming to my mind when you were talking, is that you're someone who questions the conventional way of doing things. And
I
when
do.
they don't work, it bothers you.
It does.
And then you start thinking about
Solutions.
solutions. How do I work within the system, get around the system, or recreate the system?
Yes.
And that's where your ideas around integrative care come in, or the idea of like, I'll work in this system, but I'll be at arm's length. I'll be a consultant, an independent contractor, because you're trying to maintain a degree of control and
Autonomy.
autonomy, right? Because when you see something and you're not able to affect the change because you don't have clearance, or you're not approved, or somebody else can veto whatever it is that you're recommending, you know, that's those are barriers of you making your difference.
Mm,
Okay. So you are coming up with solutions and options that allow you to take in the things and the constraints that can't be changed, but also create bridges between how you can work within that system or bring people onto your system. So I think that I think you have all these ideas, and although they're sort of unrelated, they're integrated, they're connected. They are
mhm.
connected, right? And it's ultimately you trying to find a solution, right? Whether it's related to trafficking, whether it's related to
Like system,
mm,
the medical system as a whole, trying to find a solution for incurable diseases like long COVID as of now,
yeah,
trying to find a solution to the brain that is still, we still haven't fully understood. So that's why it requires an integrative approach of treatment because every inch counts, you know?
correct.
Um,
Yeah. And like I mentioned before, it's like one of your superpowers is you go looking where nobody else is looking, right? And that's how innovation happens, right?
yeah,
And that's kind of also one of the challenges of creating something that doesn't exist.
yeah. The
It's
system doesn't like me very much though when I do that. The system wants homeostasis. The system wants to stay the same. I've heard from many, many people, well, not many, but just the people that want the system to stay the same that I didn't, that was like that toxic work environment. This is the way it's always been. This is the way it's going to be. Don't
absolutely
come here and think you're going to change the system.
correct. Until somebody comes along and does. And what if that somebody was you?
Hmm.
What if that somebody was you? How does that feel?
Amazing.
Mm, why?
Amazing.
Why?
Because we can, that's what evolution is. It's change.
Right?
We can't just keep doing things the way we used to do them just because we used to do them that way.
Mm,
We need to have some time to evaluate and spend time evaluating why do we do what we do and to readdress what is working. Let's keep that. What's effective and
mhm.
what isn't. And let's scrap that and find something else. I mean, it's just common logic to me. It's just practical.
Absolutely.
I just don't know why it's, I don't know why I was faced with so much adversity when I came in with that type of, perspective,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? Um, and it hurt. It hurt because it wasn't personal. I wasn't trying to make anything personal, right? but I became a target for bullying in the workplace. And it's so vulnerable to even say that. It sucked.
Yeah.
But I maintained a sense of, you know, I never lost my cool. I never lost my cool. Like I just always like I would just like laugh at it or like stay, other people would notice it like what the heck is going on? Why are they so mean to Mary? I'm like, well, I don't understand.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is that particular hospital entity like had loved me when I interviewed, but one person, it was just one bad apple who happened to be the director, who happened to spread rumors, who happened to change people's perspectives. She showed them half truths and half lies to really pull off her lies. She was a narcissist,
Mhm.
um, and still is. Um, you know, and what she did was unforgivable.
Mhm.
What she did was unforgivable. And, there hasn't been a day in my life where somebody has done something terrible that was truly oppression where it doesn't catch up to them. I see it. I end up seeing it and it's going to catch up to her, but I don't want to wish that onto her,
Mhm.
right? But like, I'm hurt. I'm really upset.
Yeah.
And sorry for kind of going into this here. Um,
Apologize.
this is what I've been faced with when attempting to change the system
Mhm.
in closed systems
Mhm.
that are supposedly innovative because they are so, foo-fooey and amazing and Ivy League schools and all of this stuff. Like they're supposed to be on top of their game and they're not.
Mm.
Um, and I've just been sort of disillusioned where I realized like there are some gems out there that are like no-name hospitals, but are absolute gems of hospital systems. And then there are places with big names that suck
Yeah. Yeah.
totally and are toxic. And the
Mhm.
system doesn't want to be changed. And they hire people that want to just keep everything status quo. People that intimidate, they're not leaders. They're not true leaders. She's not a true leader. She's insecure with herself and was absolutely threatened by seeing somebody who could potentially be more innovative than her,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is what you and I talked about a couple sessions ago.
Yeah. And
And so, hmm?
what I'm hearing is that the system failed you.
Oh, that's a good perspective because I kept thinking I failed to change the system.
The system failed you.
Mm,
That's why you also feel so strongly about changing systems. Because if it fails you, it fails others,
yes,
right?
yes. And I hear it in my patients. I hear how the system has failed my patients often. And all I can say is, I'm so sorry. And I can promise you that with me, it won't be like that. I will listen to you. We will come up with a conclusion and a plan together.
Mhm.
I can answer all of your questions and move forward that way.
Mm. Systems are the hardest things to change, right? We we cannot change a system on our own, but we can begin to take the steps to initiate change. And it's going to require people. It's
Mm,
going to require a shift in thinking,
mm,
right? But before we even get to those steps, it requires a shift in our own thinking, in looking at, do I believe I have the capacity to do something about this?
mm.
Believe I care enough about this? Do I believe I can be committed and face challenge and adversity because there will be, and you've experienced it? Do I care about this enough to overcome the adversity that is going to 100% come my way?
Mhm.
Does my mission matter more than the issues that are going to arise and the turmoil I'm going to feel? Because we can say, I won't personalize it, but it's almost always going to feel personal, right? Because you care about something deeply,
Yes.
always going to feel personal.
Yes.
Everything starts with you. Is
Yes.
something that I'm willing to pursue? Do I have the emotional strength, the physical strength, the mental strength to take on this worthy cause? Will this give me purpose? Is it going to fulfill me? Is it going to give me what I need in terms of challenge, curiosity, impact, contribution? Is this one thing going to allow me to utilize the skill sets that I've acquired? Is it going to allow me to be a leader, to work with the people I want to work with, to create teams,
Right.
right? So at the end of the day, whatever it is that you choose, whether it's something so grand or so small, it's got to align with your values, what
Mm.
matters, what you care about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It and the coaching institute that um I had joined for a period of time, they called those universal yearnings. And
Mm.
like
Mhm.
they were beautiful. So like there's a yearning to matter, a yearning to exist, a yearning to connect, a yearning to make a difference, a yearning to feel connected with the greater whole. Uh, these are all just examples off the top of my head, but there's a full list I can even send your way. And I can kind of address kind of the ones that I really am interested in. But yes, like I think I yearn to make a difference. And maybe it stems from a yearning to matter.
Mm.
And I think that could be coming from childhood trauma, where sometimes we feel like we didn't have a voice.
Yeah.
Did we really matter? Did we really exist?
Mhm.
Um, and I wonder where all of this vigor comes from. Like, why is it that I want to make a change and others are just completely content going along and going with the flow? I think about that often. And I wonder, is it trauma based? That trauma made me into who I am today and helped me kind of want to offset that so that but that's diminishing, that's demeaning, that's belittling of the superpower. There's something inside of certain people, a certain light, a fire, where they want to make a difference or they don't.
Right.
And I happen to be one of those people with that fire, and I can't put it out no matter what. Hey, that's a good one. Because, like, even long COVID, can't put it out.
Mhm.
Maybe it's just like kind of like, when you first turn on the stove, it's just kind of low right now. It's just
Maybe
simmering.
it dimmed your fire.
Hmm?
Perhaps long COVID dimmed your fire, but it didn't put it out.
Right.
And if anything, the more you talk about it, I think, the more you illuminate, right? I see the fire, like as we were having our coaching sessions, it's like you're thinking about so many things. You're dreaming, you're imagining, like the sky's the limit.
Yes. I love this platform and having it with you because I'm able to just take a step back, put everything on mute on the outside, right? Even the chatter in my brain, and to just say, right now is visioning time with Mary,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Right now is time to really think about why I do the things that I do. Do I want to continue moving forward in the way that I've done them? Where is the gap between where I want to be and where I am right now? How can I get here?
Mhm.
And what needs to be done in between? And what kinds of agreements do I need to make with myself? Or what kinds of vulnerabilities do I need to dive into and express? What kinds of emotions am I suppressing? What am I addressing? What kinds of frustrations do I have? Because a frustration will show, you know, where I want to be versus where I am, or where, I want a system to be and where the system is. And so it's noticing all of the like something boiling. It's like all the little all the little bubbles that come up, that there's a little bit of emotions, there's a bit of frustration, there's a bit of cognitive and thought process changes that need to be made, or things that I need to think through, emotions that I need to work through, traumas that I need to manage slash work through, to try and achieve that goal, to try and come at kind of bridge the gap. Um, so I really enjoy the space that we have. Thank you for this opportunity and for the platform that you have and for the ability to really like just, vision again. I miss that so much, Mary. I miss that so much. I miss being able to dream.
Mm.
I miss being able to um, be emotionally connected to my dreams.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you
I,
for that.
Mhm. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you do
Yeah.
receive that.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it just takes a little bit of priming to go back to that, to reconnect, right? Like sometimes we lose connection, but it's always there. It's just we got to just find a way to get back there because it's still waiting for us, you know? And you've talked so much about systems, and I read a book once that said like if you want an average life, follow the average system, right? But every time I talk to you, I realize that average doesn't work for you.
I know, and I wish it did.
But it didn't, and it doesn't. And there's a reason for that, right? When we want to innovate, change, revolutionize the way things that are not working, right? We have to bring our fire, right? We have to bring the things that have been put into you for a purpose, right? Not everybody's got that. I need to make a difference in life. Some people are just content with just doing what they need to do to fulfill their obligations. And if their obligations are fulfilled, they're fulfilled. And there's nothing wrong with that either. But that's not you. It has never been you. It will never be you. You're meant to do something with this. And you know it. And
Mm-hmm.
so what is the next smallest step that you can take that will bring you a little bit closer to the clarity that you need? What is the next smallest step that you can take?
I imagined a pen and paper and a flow chart
Okay.
of looking at an umbrella of wanting to make a difference and adding all of these different dreams and series to the story and explaining it in bullet points, kind of what each of these things would identify or express or share, and kind of connecting the dots
Mhm.
and sort of just putting it down on paper. That's the thing that I think would be really valuable too.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. The ability to visualize it on like a paper or a whiteboard and look at, what are all those ideas and what are the connections between them.
Yes.
I love that. I love that.
Okay.
Okay.
That'll
And
be I like
that's,
that.
that's your homework. Okay. Well, since you said homework, make a commitment with me on when you're going to make this happen.
Okay. I'll actually work on it
Mhm.
today and tomorrow, because on Tuesday I set up an appointment with the private practice, my colleague and friend, who I want to ask, would you ever be open to a partnership?
Okay.
And I asked her for a visioning session together so we could vision about the future of the practice and how I can incorporate some of my skill sets, to bring it into the private practice. And so I think it would be really helpful and preparatory for that meeting to really have a clearer vision of what can I bring into the table?
Yeah,
What do you think?
I think it's brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah. So by our next session, you're going to show this to me? We're going to talk about it.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
for you, what new revelations you've had, what excites you.
Yes.
We're going to talk about it. All right.
Yes.
How are you feeling right now?
I feel so much better. I'm smiling. I feel more engaged. I'm not sleepy or tired. I'm laughing. Um,
Good laughing too.
I know I feel lighter.
Yeah.
I don't feel as overwhelmed. Like I think I was carrying so much in the back of my mind of like, I need to figure out what I want to do. And it was like so much pressure, but it's more like, all these different things are all connected. I love that. I love that it's about making a difference. And
Yeah.
it's okay that I have this fire. It's not a judgment that I should be taking. I shouldn't be judging it. I should be embracing it. And maybe I can find a way to work within the system, but to also have some autonomy. Um, I
Yeah.
love that it started to share and reconnect with myself and share some of the visions that I once had that I still find myself having. Um, I love that I, you know, should not be so judgmental of my ability to turn on and off my superpower of being a doctor.
Mhm.
I love that we talked about that. Um, and I love that you provided me space to vision. I miss my creativity. I love that you hold me with this very unconditional positive regard, like Carl Rogers said, where you're able to see the best in the person in front of you and your client. And that's so kind. And it helps me become my best self,
Mm.
you know, um, because I feel like this person believes in me truly and wants to see me become successful. And I feel it in real time. And
Mm.
so it really helps motivate me to kind of become my better and best self.
Yeah.
So I loved our session today. Thank you so much, Mary. This was wonderful. Um, I feel lighter, I would say, less chitter chatter.
Mhm. Mhm.
That I think will help my relationships too, especially with my husband. Like I remember last night, I was trying to focus on watching a movie and I had a little bit of a hard time. And he kept asking me what's wrong. And I said, I don't know. I think I just am a little overwhelmed and I'm not sure what it is. But I think this will allow me, I know this will allow me to be more present in my relationships when I'm better connected to myself and there's less chitter chatter. Know that I'll be more present. It'll have a much more positive interpersonal, effect. So I thank you for it.
But I love that. Hey, I'm here for you, but I have to remind you, you did the work.
Mm,
You did the work. I was a mere guide for you, but ultimately, my role is to guide you back to you, right? No one knows you better than you,
mm-hmm.
right? And you know what's best for you. Sometimes we need to quiet the chitter chatter, right?
Right.
To really tap into your authentic voice. And I experienced today the ability to hear you voice that, right? To really talk about what it is that you want for yourself and be open around the things that bother you, frustrate you, some of your vulnerabilities and your insecurities, some of the trauma that's come up through work in the system and other areas, childhood, you know? And it's our ability to really be just honest with ourselves and voice those things, right? And then connect them to empowering meaning, right? At first, it was like, I can't get rid of that fire. And then my fire is dimmed, and then I have my fire. Well, let me tell you, you couldn't make a difference if you didn't have fire.
Mm-hmm.
You need something to get you going. And
Mm-hmm.
if you feel that fire, then you would be completely content with mediocrity.
Yes.
That word does not fit in your life.
No.
Not mediocre or average. You're
Yeah.
you're meant for extraordinary. You wouldn't have all these ideas and thoughts and visions, and you would never, ever have any of those in your mind if you were just meant to be an average doctor in an average system.
This is really amazing to hear because I'd always felt this way, Mary, but then something knocked me down to where I developed a mistaken or limited belief
Mhm.
of that I should be content with mediocrity, that I am only destined for mediocrity. And that pains me so much.
Mm.
And I think that what's happening now is I'm stepping back into myself. And there's nothing more that I want than to be extraordinary and to make an extraordinary difference.
I love that.
That's
That's
really what I,
yeah,
yeah, thank you for being there for me during this journey. Really.
it's a privilege to see you grow like this. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much, Miriam, for your openness and your coachability. And I really do look forward to seeing your homework and seeing what you come up with. And we will reconvene in our session.
I love it. And you know something I wanted to add. So I know I mentioned homework, but what I should have said was growth work.
Ah, even better. Growth. It is growth work. Yeah.
Right?
Vision
Yeah.
work.
Vision work. I love it. Yep. So I look forward to our next session. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Miriam. Till next time.